Listen carefully, because what I'm about to say is going to sound wrong at first. Reaching $100,000 is a huge accomplishment, and you deserve real credit for getting there. But here's the uncomfortable truth almost nobody tells you. The habits and strategies that got you to 100,000 are the same ones that will quietly prevent you from ever reaching 1 million. That sounds backwards, I know, but understanding this shift is the difference between people who stay stuck at six figures for decades and people who go on to build real wealth. I've spent years watching what happens after people hit their first major financial milestone, and this transition, from 100,000 to 1 million, is where most people unknowingly derail. Not because they're irresponsible or bad with money, but because they keep playing the game that worked before, even though the rules have changed. And here's something that'll shock you. According to recent data, it takes the average person about 10 years to save their first 100,000. But that same person, they can reach 1 million in as little as 12 to 15 more years if they understand what I'm about to share. That's not magic. That's mathematics combined with strategic thinking. Here's why $100,000 is such a dangerous number. You've entered a very small group. Fewer than 1 in 4 Americans ever reach this level in liquid savings and investments. Most people never do. You should be proud of that. But this milestone creates a false sense of safety. People start thinking they've made it, that they can ease up, that compound interest will handle the rest. That mindset is exactly how people stall out permanently. 100,000 is not a finish line. It's a checkpoint, and everything changes after it. Let me show you why this number is so critical. Charlie Munger once said the first 100,000 is the hardest, and he was right. Here's the math that nobody explains clearly. At a 10% return, 100,000 grows by 10,000 in year 1. But 1 million, that grows by 100,000 in the same year. You're literally making in 1 year what took you a decade to save initially. That's the power waiting on the other side of this transition. But here's the trap. Most people hit 100,000 and immediately start making what I call six-figure mistakes. They buy the luxury car they've been dreaming about. They upgrade to a home that stretches their budget. They take on lifestyle commitments that eat their investment capacity. I've seen people with 150,000 invested still driving a $40,000 car with a $500 monthly payment. That single decision is costing them potentially 300,000 over the life of the loan when you factor in opportunity cost. When you were building your first 100,000, success probably came from optimization. You cut expenses, tracked every dollar, hunted for deals, and said no more often than yes. That approach was smart and necessary. But if you're still spending mental energy debating whether to buy generic cereal or name brand while sitting on 6 figures invested, you're playing the wrong game. At this level, tiny optimizations don't move the needle anymore. Leverage does. This is the shift that matters. You stop trying to save your way to wealth and start building systems that scale. That single change can mean the difference between reaching 1 million in your 40s versus your 60s. The goal now isn't perfection, it's momentum. Think about it this way. When you had $10,000 saved, cutting your grocery bill by $200 a month was meaningful. That's a 2% boost to your net worth annually just from groceries. But at 100,000, that same $200 is 0.2%. You could spend 10 hours a month optimizing groceries, or you could spend 2 hours positioning yourself for a $10,000 raise. One is a 0.2% impact. The other is 10%. Your time is now your most valuable asset, and where you direct it determines everything. Here's a loophole most people miss. Once you cross 6 figures, you unlock access to investment opportunities that weren't available before. Private placements, certain real estate syndications, angel investing. These often have minimum investment thresholds of 25 to 50,000. I'm not saying rush into these, but understand that your capital now opens doors it couldn't before. The rules literally changed. Before anything else, your financial foundation has to be solid. If your employer offers a retirement match and you're not taking all of it, you're giving up free money. If you're carrying high-interest debt while investing, the math is working against you. And if you're eligible for tax-advantaged accounts and not using them fully, you're leaking wealth without realizing it. These aren't advanced strategies. They're the baseline. Let me break down something crucial that most financial advisors gloss over. In 2024 and 2025, you can contribute up to $23,000 to your 401k, $7,000 to an IRA, $4,000 to an HSA if you're eligible. And if you're self-employed, you can contribute significantly more through a solo 401k or SEP IRA. That's potentially 40 to 60,000 of tax-advantaged space you can fill annually. Most people at the 100,000 mark are only using maybe 20 to 30% of this space. Here's why this matters more than you think. Let's say you're in the 24% tax bracket. Every dollar you put into traditional retirement accounts saves you 24 cents in taxes today. Over 30 years, that tax savings, if invested, becomes worth more than the original contribution. You're essentially getting a 24% immediate return before any market gains. Show me another guaranteed 24% return in today's environment. But here's the loophole nobody talks about. Backdoor Roth conversions. If your income exceeds Roth IRA limits, you can still contribute to a traditional IRA and immediately convert it to Roth. It's completely legal, and if done correctly, you're building a tax-free retirement account even at high income levels. The IRS knows about this strategy and hasn't closed it because it's technically working as intended. That's free tax-free growth on the table. There's also one habit that's shockingly powerful and takes almost no effort. Once a year, at the start of the year, you increase your investment rate by 1 or 2%. Most people never notice the change, but over decades, the compounding effect is enormous. This single habit can be worth hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million, without requiring discipline or sacrifice once it's set up. Let me show you the math. If you're investing $3,000 a month starting at $100,000, you'll hit $1 million in about 12 years at 8% returns. But if you increase that by just 2% annually, meaning your $3,000 becomes $3,060, then $3,121, and so on, you hit $1 million in 10 years instead. 2 years bought with essentially zero effort. At this stage, automation stops being about avoiding mistakes and starts being about freeing your mind. You don't want to think about money all the time. Big, predictable expenses should already be planned for and funded before they arrive. When systems are in place, financial decisions stop competing with your life decisions. Here's a system that changed everything for me and countless others I've advised. Create what I call wealth buckets. Every dollar that hits your account has a predetermined destination. 50 to 60% goes to essentials, 10 to 15% to retirement accounts, 10 to 15% to taxable investing, 5 to 10% to what I call your opportunity fund. This is for calculated risks, side ventures, or career investments. And 10 to 20% is guilt-free spending. The beauty of this system is that you're simultaneously building wealth and enjoying your life. There's no deprivation, no guilt, no second guessing. The decision is made by your system, not by your emotions in the moment. At the same time, cleaning up old accounts, consolidating what you no longer need, and organizing your financial life reduces friction and stress in ways most people underestimate. I've seen people with retirement accounts at 4 different jobs, 3 savings accounts at different banks, and investment accounts scattered across multiple platforms. Every single one of those accounts is a point of friction, a decision to make, a login to remember. Consolidation isn't just about organization. It's about reducing cognitive load so you can focus on what actually builds wealth. Now here's where most people lose years of progress. They get comfortable. They stop pushing their income because things feel stable. And comfort is one of the most dangerous states you can be in financially. I see people with 6 figures invested obsess over saving a few dollars a month while being underpaid by tens of thousands a year. That's not discipline. That's misdirected focus. At this level, income acceleration matters more than cost cutting. Most people have no idea what their skills are actually worth in today's market. If you haven't negotiated your pay, changed roles, or seriously tested your market value in years, you're probably being underpaid, and your employer is benefiting from your silence. Here's a curiosity that most people never consider. The difference between being paid at the 50th percentile versus the 75th percentile for your role is often $20,000 to $40,000 annually. Over a career, that's not just the salary difference, it's the compound growth of investing that difference. We're talking about $1 million mistake just from not knowing your worth. Asking for more money isn't about entitlement. It's about alignment. And if you do ask, you don't ask emotionally. You ask strategically, with data, results, and a clear case for why your growth benefits the organization. If the answer is no, that information is valuable because it tells you where you stand. Let me give you a framework that works. Every 6 to 12 months, document your wins. Revenue generated, costs saved, projects delivered, problems solved. When it's time to negotiate, you're not asking based on tenure or need. You're presenting a business case. And here's the loophole. Most managers have discretionary budget for retention that's separate from standard raise cycles. If you're valuable and someone else wants you, suddenly money appears that wasn't available before. Once you reach this level of financial stability, you gain something most people never have: options. You can take calculated risks. You can change companies, negotiate equity, or build something on the side without risking your survival. Your financial cushion becomes a platform instead of a safety net. Here's where it gets interesting. That 100,000 you've built, it buys you negotiating power. You can walk away from bad opportunities. You can take a temporary pay cut to learn high-value skills. You can start a side business without the desperation that kills most ventures. Wealthy people don't just have more money, they have more options, and options create more wealth. Even a modest amount of side income, invested consistently, can shave years off your timeline to 1 million. Let's say you build a side income stream of just $1,000 a month. That's 12,000 annually. Invested over 15 years at 8% returns, that single income stream alone becomes worth 330,000. You just cut your timeline by years with what started as a weekend project. As income grows, lifestyle inflation becomes tempting, and this is where many people undo their progress. The goal isn't to live like you're broke forever. That's miserable and unsustainable. The goal is conscious spending. You decide what actually improves your life and spend generously there while being indifferent everywhere else. When spending aligns with values, it stops feeling like sacrifice. This is why having a worry-free spending number is so effective. Below that number, you don't think twice. Above it, you pause and ask whether it aligns with what you actually want long-term. At 6 figures, stressing over small purchases is counterproductive. Your energy belongs on bigger decisions. Here's the framework I use and teach. Identify your 10 out of 10 expenses, things that genuinely make your life significantly better. Maybe it's living in a walkable neighborhood, or having a home office, or traveling internationally twice a year. Whatever scores a 10 out of 10 for you, spend freely there. Everything else, optimize ruthlessly or eliminate entirely. I know someone who drives a 10-year-old Toyota but lives in a penthouse with a view that makes him happy every single morning. I know another who wears Target clothes but spends $15,000 a year on experiences with their kids. Both are building wealth faster than their peers who try to look wealthy across all categories. You need to stop asking $5 questions and start asking $50,000 questions. Housing, transportation, career trajectory, and time are where wealth is won or lost. Buying a home isn't always the smart move, and expensive car payments quietly destroy more wealth than most people realize. Wealthy people don't buy status, they buy flexibility. Here's a loophole most people miss about housing. In many markets, you can rent a nicer place than you can afford to buy, invest the difference, and come out ahead over 5 to 7 years. The rent is throwing money away. Advice made sense in 1985. In 2025, with home prices in many cities requiring 800,000 plus, the math has changed completely. Run the numbers for your specific situation instead of following outdated wisdom. Taxes are another area where people get distracted. Yes, they matter, but not the way most people think. Your best tax strategy is still maxing out the obvious accounts. Not complicated structures, not exotic loopholes, and not rearranging your entire life to save a small percentage while ignoring the basics. Chasing complexity before mastering fundamentals is how people stay busy without getting rich. But here are some tax strategies that actually matter at this level. Tax loss harvesting in taxable accounts can save you thousands annually. Qualified dividends and long-term capital gains are taxed lower than ordinary income. Structure your investments accordingly. If you're self-employed or have side income, every legitimate business expense is deductible, and your home office might qualify too. Here's a curiosity. Most people think tax efficiency means paying less in taxes. Wrong. Tax efficiency means paying taxes at the optimal time in the optimal way. Sometimes paying more tax now with Roth conversions means dramatically less tax later. The goal isn't minimization, it's optimization over your lifetime. And here's the biggest tax loophole that's completely legal. If you hold investments for more than a year, your long-term capital gains rate is probably 15%, possibly even 0% if your income is managed right. But if you trade frequently, you're paying ordinary income rates of 22% to 37%. The tax code literally rewards patience. Just by waiting 12 months to sell, you can cut your tax bill by 40% to 60%. That's a massive advantage hiding in plain sight. Let's talk about the big picture questions that most people avoid. At 100,000, you need to start thinking about wealth across generations, not just your own lifetime. Estate planning isn't just for the ultra-rich anymore. If you're building toward 1 million, you need a will, beneficiary designations need to be current, and you should understand how your assets transfer. Here's something almost nobody considers. The difference between dying with 1 million in a traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA is potentially 300,000 in taxes your heirs will pay. That's money that could stay in your family with relatively simple planning done decades earlier. Insurance is another area where people at this level make expensive mistakes. You probably need less life insurance than you think if you're building wealth, but you might need more disability insurance. Here's why. If you're in your 30s or 40s earning 80 to 100,000, your future earning potential is worth 2 to 3 million. That's your biggest asset, and most people insure their car better than they insure their income. Umbrella insurance is criminally underused. For a couple $100 a year, you can get an additional million or two in liability coverage. If you have assets worth protecting, this is obvious value. The premium is minimal compared to the protection. Here's a loophole about risk that changes everything. Once you have 6 figures invested, you can actually afford to take more risk with new money, not less. Your base is secure. Your compound growth is working. New contributions can go into higher growth opportunities because you're not dependent on them for survival. Most people do the opposite. They get conservative exactly when they should get strategic. Between 100,000 and 400,000, something magical happens. Each additional 100,000 comes faster than the last. Your first 100 might have taken 10 years. Your second 100 might take 5. Your third might take 3. By the time you're approaching 1 million, you're adding 100,000 every year or two just from growth and contributions combined. This is where the compounding curve goes vertical. This is where wealth building stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling inevitable. But you only get here if you don't sabotage yourself in the transition phase we've been talking about. Here's what the path actually looks like for most people who succeed. They reach 100,000 in their early to mid-30s after a decade of focused saving. They hit 200,000 3 to 5 years later as income grows and compound returns accelerate. They cross 500,000 in their early to mid-40s. And they reach 1 million somewhere between 45 and 55, depending on income trajectory and market conditions. That's the realistic timeline if you're doing things right. It's not get rich quick, it's get rich certain. But here's the key, every year you delay this transition costs you compound years at the end. Starting this mindset shift at 100,000 versus 150,000 could mean retiring 2 to 3 years later. The cost of comfort is time you'll never get back. Here's the truth. You've already done the hard part. You've proven you can delay gratification, stay consistent, and build something from nothing. Now it's time to scale those same principles to a higher level. Bigger systems, bigger decisions, better questions. The path from 100,000 to 1 million isn't about grinding harder. It's about thinking better. Your future self is built by the choices you make right now. Don't let comfort steal that future. I want to leave you with 3 specific actions to take this week, not someday this week. First, calculate your actual savings rate as a percentage of gross income. Not what you think it is, what it actually is. If it's below 20%, you need a plan to increase it. If it's above 30%, you're in excellent shape. Second, research your market value for your current role. Use Glassdoor, Levels FYI, or PayScale. If there's a gap between what you're making and what you're worth, that's your biggest opportunity. Third, automate one thing you're currently doing manually. 1 bill, 1 investment contribution, 1 savings transfer. Remove 1 financial decision from your weekly mental load. The distance between 100,000 and 1 million is not 10 times the effort. It's the same effort applied with 10 times the leverage. You've built the foundation. Now build the empire. Your 100,000 is either the beginning of something extraordinary or the plateau where dreams go to die. The only difference is what you do next. Choose momentum over comfort. Choose growth over safety. Choose the future over the present. That choice, right now, is worth more than you can possibly calculate. You know what the difference is between someone watching this video at 100,000 and someone watching it at 20,000? About 5 to 7 years, that's it. That's the only difference. They started earlier. They took action sooner. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. So let me be direct with you. This video has given you a roadmap that costs thousands of dollars when people hire financial advisors to figure out. You got it for free in 18 minutes. But information without implementation is just entertainment. You'll forget 90% of this within 48 hours unless you do something with it right now. Here's your moment. Here's where you decide. Smash that subscribe button like your financial future depends on it, because it does. Every video I release is designed to give you an unfair advantage in building wealth. The people subscribed to this channel are getting years ahead of their peers with each upload. Drop a comment right now telling me your current net worth and your target for 12 months from now. Put it out into the universe. Make it real, make it public. When you see that comment a year from now, you'll either be grateful you committed or regretful you didn't follow through. You choose. Share this video. I'm serious. Right now, go to your text messages and send this to someone who needs to hear it. Your friend who just got their first real job. Your sibling who's finally taking money seriously. Your coworker who's always asking you about investing. You sharing this could literally change someone's life trajectory. That's not hyperbole. That's compound mathematics. I've dropped a free 30-day wealth acceleration challenge in the description. 30 days, 30 specific actions designed to optimize every aspect of your financial life. No fluff, no theory. Just practical moves that build on each other. Day 1 starts with calculating your net worth. Day 30 ends with you having a complete financial system that runs on autopilot. Download it. Start today. And if you want to go even deeper, I've created a private community where we share strategies, celebrate wins, and hold each other accountable. The link is in the description. It's not for everyone, only for people who are serious about reaching 7 figures and beyond. Here's the truth. A year from now, you'll wish you started today. 2 years from now, you'll either be living proof that this works or another person who meant to, but never did. 5 years from now, the gap between you and everyone else who watched this video but didn't take action will be measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. The clock is ticking. Your future self is begging you to take this seriously. Don't let them down. Subscribe, comment, share, take action. I'll see you in the next one where we're covering the 5 income streams every millionaire has that you've probably never considered. Until then, execute.